You will be moving into this person's house very soon. See this picture before it gets deleted. My beloved child, hold your attention here for a moment, because what you are about to hear may seem ordinary at first, yet it has the power to change the way you look at everything that has been unfolding around you. Have you noticed how certain places seem strangely familiar, even though you have never stepped inside them? How a doorway, a window, or even the feeling of a home appears in your imagination without explanation. Do not brush those moments aside too quickly. Sometimes the future introduces itself quietly, long before it arrives. There is a reason these thoughts have been finding you again and again. Perhaps you believed they were random. Perhaps you thought they were nothing more than passing curiosity. But what if they were gentle hints pointing toward a chapter that is already beginning to form? Stay with this message, because every piece connects to the next. The title you saw was not meant to promise certainty about a specific event. It is an invitation to imagine what becomes possible when your life starts moving toward a place where you truly belong. Picture this. Somewhere, a house stands under the morning light. It is peaceful. Its walls have witnessed laughter that has not yet included your voice. Its windows have reflected sunsets you have never seen with your own eyes. Yet, in a surprising way, your future and that place may already be connected through choices that are happening today. Not because of luck. Not because of coincidence. But because every decision you make quietly shapes the road ahead. Now ask yourself something. Why have so many things been changing recently? Why have certain doors remained closed while unexpected opportunities appeared somewhere else? Why have conversations ended only for new ones to begin? What if those moments were not interruptions? What if they were preparations? Many people spend years trying to force the future to arrive faster. Yet the greatest transformations rarely announce themselves with noise. They begin in silence. A single decision. A single meeting. A single unexpected invitation. Then, without warning, life looks completely different. Pause for just a second and imagine walking through the entrance of a home that feels strangely familiar. You look around. Everything feels peaceful. Not because you have been there before, but because your heart recognizes something your mind has not fully understood yet. Could that feeling become real someday? No one can answer that with certainty. But every meaningful journey begins with the willingness to notice possibilities that once seemed invisible. That is why this moment matters. Because awareness always comes before transformation. And transformation often arrives quietly. Here is something even more interesting. Sometimes the picture that captures your attention is not important because of the image itself. It is important because it awakens hope. It reminds you that your current situation is not the final chapter. The place you live today does not define every place you will ever call home. The challenges surrounding you now are not permanent. Your story continues. Keep listening. Because the next piece may connect a thought you have carried for much longer than you realize. Imagine waking up one ordinary morning believing it will be like every other day. You answer a message. You receive unexpected news. Someone introduces you to a new opportunity. A simple conversation leads to another. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. Then one day you realize you are standing somewhere you once believed existed only in your imagination. That is how many life-changing moments actually happen. Quietly. Step by step. Without dramatic announcements. The future rarely shouts. It whispers. That whisper is what many people ignore. Do not rush past this thought. Sometimes your greatest opportunity does not appear as a miracle. It appears as a small invitation you almost overlooked. A phone call. A conversation. A decision to say yes when fear wanted you to say no. And suddenly, everything begins moving. Have you ever wondered why certain dreams refuse to disappear? Why the same vision keeps returning during peaceful moments? Perhaps it is because your mind is learning to recognize a possibility before your eyes can see it. There is another reason you found this message today. Not to predict an exact address. Not to promise a specific house. But to remind you that your future is still being written, and the pages ahead may contain places, people, and experiences beyond what you currently expect. So before this moment slips away, keep one simple thought close to your heart. The life waiting ahead may already be taking shape in ways you cannot yet measure. The connections are forming. The opportunities are moving. The path is becoming clearer with every choice you make. And somewhere beyond today's horizon, a new beginning may be preparing to welcome you in a way that feels almost impossible to imagine right now. Stay a little longer, because this is only the first piece of a much larger picture, and what comes next may completely change the way you interpret every sign you've been noticing lately. Before your thoughts race ahead, pause here. Because the next part is where small details begin to reveal a much bigger picture. Have you ever noticed how the future rarely arrives all at once? It sends tiny signals first. A conversation that seems ordinary. A place that unexpectedly catches your attention. A feeling that tells you, remember this moment. Most people overlook those signals. But sometimes, the smallest clue becomes the beginning of an entirely new direction. Think about the last few weeks. Have you felt an unusual desire to organize your life? To let go of things that no longer serve you? To imagine yourself living differently than you ever have before? Those thoughts are not meaningless. They often appear when your mind begins preparing itself for change before your surroundings catch up. Imagine opening a door you have never opened before. Sunlight fills the room. The air feels peaceful. Every corner seems to whisper possibility rather than uncertainty. It is not because the building itself is magical. It is because you have finally stepped into a season where your confidence has grown enough to recognize opportunity. That is the picture many people never see. They focus only on the destination. They forget that becoming the person who belongs there is the real journey. Stay with this thought. What if every challenge you have faced recently has quietly been teaching you something essential? Patience. Wisdom. Resilience. The ability to appreciate what truly matters. Without those lessons, even the most beautiful destination can feel empty. With them, an ordinary place can become extraordinary. Now imagine someone looking at a home and seeing only walls and windows. Then imagine another person seeing a future filled with conversations, laughter, growth, and unforgettable memories. The house has not changed. The perspective has. Perhaps that is why this message found you today. Not to tell you exactly where you will go, but to remind you that your perspective creates possibilities your eyes cannot yet measure. Wait just a little longer, because there is another piece that deserves your attention. Sometimes people wonder why certain opportunities seem delayed. The answer is often simpler than expected. Timing shapes everything. A door opened too early can become overwhelming. The same door opened at the right moment can become life-changing. That is why patience is never wasted. It is preparation in disguise. Imagine looking back 1 year from now. You smile. Not because every problem disappeared overnight, but because the path you feared taking became the one that brought unexpected peace. That future version of yourself already knows something your present self is still discovering. Growth is happening even when you cannot measure it. If this message has made you stop and reflect for even a moment, perhaps someone else would appreciate hearing it too. And if these kinds of stories inspire your imagination, you are always welcome to leave a comment, share your thoughts, or subscribe so we can continue exploring them together. Now consider one final question before this part ends. What if the picture mentioned in the title is not only about a building? What if it represents a vision of the person you are becoming? Because every meaningful place begins as an idea before it becomes reality. Every journey begins with one decision. Every new chapter begins with one quiet moment of belief. Do not lose sight of that. The next part will uncover why certain unexpected encounters, choices, and moments may feel strangely connected, as though pieces of a puzzle have been moving into place long before you notice them. Stay until the next chapter, because the story is only becoming clearer. Something else deserves your attention, because this is the point where many people stop looking, even though the most meaningful clues often appear immediately afterward. Have you ever realized that life sometimes rearranges itself so quietly that you only recognize the pattern when you look back? Imagine walking through a neighborhood you have never visited before. Nothing seems unusual. Yet something inside you slows down. Your eyes pause on a single doorway. A balcony catches your attention. A quiet street feels strangely comforting. You cannot explain why. You simply know that the feeling is different. Moments like these remind us that our minds are constantly collecting pieces of the future before the full picture becomes clear. Now think about every unexpected delay that once disappointed you. The opportunity that never happened. The invitation that disappeared. The plan that suddenly changed. At the time, each one felt like a closed chapter. But what if those moments were actually making space for something that fit your life far better? The future has an interesting way of replacing what no longer belongs with something you could never have planned on your own. Stay with this thought, because this next image matters. Picture yourself carrying only what truly matters. Not heavy burdens. Not endless worries. Only the experiences, lessons, and dreams that help shape who you have become. As you move forward, you notice something surprising. The destination feels less important than the person you have become during the journey. That is when everything begins to change. The confidence in your steps. The calm in your decisions. The gratitude in your heart. And suddenly, opportunities begin appearing where you once saw only uncertainty. Ask yourself this. If tomorrow brought a completely unexpected opportunity, would you recognize it? Or would you dismiss it because it looked too ordinary? Many turning points arrive without dramatic announcements. A simple introduction. An unexpected phone call. A chance conversation. A message that arrives at exactly the right moment. Small beginnings often lead to remarkable destinations. Here is another thought worth holding on to. The title speaks about moving into someone's house, but perhaps the deeper message is about moving into a new season of life. A season where your mindset changes. Where your confidence grows. Where new relationships, fresh ideas, and meaningful opportunities begin to surround you. That kind of change always starts from within before it becomes visible on the outside. Take one more moment to imagine this. Months from now, you pause during a quiet evening. You look around and realize how many things have changed. Not all at once. Not overnight. But one decision at a time. One conversation at a time. One courageous step at a time. You smile, not because everything became perfect, but because you kept moving when it would have been easier to stand still. That is the quiet strength that creates remarkable stories. And perhaps that is why this message reached you today. Not to give you every answer, but to encourage you to stay open to possibilities that are still unfolding beyond today's horizon. The next chapter will reveal how unexpected connections can begin aligning at exactly the right moment, often when you least expect them. Don't rush ahead just yet, the most surprising piece of this story is still waiting. Just when it seems the story has revealed everything, another layer quietly appears. Listen carefully, because this may be the moment where scattered pieces begin fitting together in a way you never expected. The future rarely arrives with loud announcements. More often, it approaches like the sunrise, slowly enough that many people do not notice the light until the darkness has already faded. Imagine standing at the edge of a brand new beginning. Behind you are the seasons that shaped your strength. Ahead of you are doors you have not yet opened. Between those two moments is a single choice. The choice to believe that your story is still unfolding. What if the house mentioned in this journey is more than a destination? What if it represents a life that feels peaceful, meaningful, and completely different from where you stand today? Think about that for a moment. Every beautiful home begins long before the first key turns in the lock. It begins with a vision. With planning. With preparation that no one else can see. Your own future works in much the same way. The changes you have been making. The lessons you have been learning. The confidence you have been building. None of it is wasted. Every experience quietly adds another brick to the foundation of tomorrow. Stay with this message. Because the next thought could change how you look at every delay you have ever faced. Imagine reading a chapter from the middle of a book. Nothing makes complete sense. Characters appear without explanation. Events seem confusing. But once you reach the final pages, every earlier moment suddenly has meaning. Life often feels exactly like that. You are living one chapter at a time. The complete picture only becomes clear when enough pages have been written. Perhaps that is why patience carries so much power. Not because waiting is easy, but because understanding usually arrives after growth, not before it. Now picture yourself opening a front door. The room is filled with quiet light. The atmosphere feels welcoming. You take one slow breath. For a brief moment, everything becomes still. Not because every challenge has disappeared, but because you recognize how far you have come. You remember the uncertainty, the questions, the moments when nothing seemed to be moving. And yet, here you are, standing in a place your past self could only imagine. That realization is often more valuable than the destination itself. Here is something worth remembering. People often believe extraordinary moments happen in an instant. The truth is different. Extraordinary moments are usually built through hundreds of ordinary decisions made with hope instead of fear. One conversation. One opportunity. One act of courage. One decision to keep going. Until one day, everything connects. Before this chapter closes, let this thought stay with you. The picture you imagine throughout this story was never meant to predict a specific address or promise a certain outcome. It was meant to remind you that the future is filled with possibilities you cannot fully see today. Every new season begins with an open mind. Every meaningful destination begins with a single step. And every remarkable story begins when someone chooses to believe that tomorrow can become greater than yesterday. So as you leave this moment, carry that hope with you. Keep your eyes open. Keep your heart ready. Keep moving toward the life you are building one choice at a time. Because sometimes the greatest surprise is not discovering a new place. It is discovering the new version of yourself that was quietly growing strong enough to arrive there. And if this story sparked your imagination or encouraged you to see your future in a new light, feel free to share it with someone who might need the same reminder. You are also welcome to leave a comment about which moment spoke to you most, and subscribe if you would like to continue exploring stories like this together. The journey may be ending for now, but your next chapter is only beginning. One final thought before you move on. Because sometimes the last piece of a story is the one that changes how every earlier moment is understood. If you have stayed until now, it means something inside you has been searching, not for guarantees, but for hope, direction, and a reminder that tomorrow can hold more than today. Take a quiet moment and imagine yourself looking back from the future. You remember this very day. Not because something dramatic happened, but because it was the day you decided to stop believing that your best chapter had already passed. Everything began with a shift in perspective. Nothing around you changed overnight. Yet everything inside you started changing. That is how meaningful transformation often begins. Silently. Patiently. Powerfully. Now imagine walking through a peaceful home. Every room reflects gratitude rather than worry. Every window reminds you how far you have traveled. The walls are not valuable because of their design. They are meaningful because they hold memories created through kindness, perseverance, and hope. Then a thought quietly enters your mind. What if this was never just about finding a different place? What if it was always about becoming the kind of person who could create peace wherever life leads? That realization changes everything. Because a true home is built long before furniture arrives. It is built through character, through wisdom, through compassion, through the courage to keep moving when the road ahead is unclear. Perhaps that is the hidden picture this entire journey has been pointing toward. Not simply a house. Not simply a destination. But a future where you recognize opportunities instead of fearing change. Where you welcome new beginnings instead of resisting them. Where each step forward feels lighter because you have learned to trust the process of growth. Think about all the moments that once felt insignificant. The unexpected conversation. The invitation you almost ignored. The lesson that seemed difficult at first. Looking back, each one became part of a much larger story. Life has a remarkable way of connecting moments that appear unrelated until the very end. And maybe your next meaningful chapter is already moving toward you in ways you cannot yet see. Keep your curiosity alive. Keep your hope steady. Keep preparing yourself for possibilities that have not yet revealed their full shape. Because every sunrise begins while the horizon is still dark. Every new season begins before the first leaf changes. And every unforgettable journey begins with one quiet decision to keep believing. If this story encouraged you or gave you a fresh way to think about the future, consider sharing it with someone who may need the same encouragement today. I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if these journeys speak to you, you're warmly invited to subscribe so we can continue exploring them together. As this story comes to its close, remember one final truth. The future is not asking you to have every answer.